All right, today we're getting into the nuts and bolts of what makes a team truly great and, what makes it a total disaster. We're going to break down a troubleshooter's guide for any team you're on.
Think about it. We've all been there, right? You're on a team where everything just clicks. It feels effortless, ideas are sparking, it's like magic. But then, there's the other kind of team, the one where every single meeting is a painful slog and you feel like you're going nowhere.
And that's the big question, isn't it? We hear all the time that teamwork is the key, but we've also seen teams get completely bogged down by things like process losses, which is just a fancy way of saying wasted time trying to coordinate. And, of course, social loafing, where some people just hide in the group and don't pull their weight. So what really separates the dream teams from the miserable ones? Well, here's the good news. It's not magic, and it's not a secret. It's actually a science. The huge difference between a team that works and one that doesn't comes down to a clear framework, a blueprint for how they're built and how they operate. So let's check out that blueprint. Okay, here it is. This is the team effectiveness model. And I know it looks a little complicated, but don't worry, it's actually super simple. Team success really just boils down to two big things. First, team design. That's all the choices you make before the work even starts. And second, team processes. That's how the team actually behaves day to day. If you get those two parts right, boom, you've got an effective team. So let's break down that first piece. First up, designing your team. You got to think of this as the foundation of a house. These are the choices you make right at the beginning that will set your team up for success or for failure long before anyone writes a single email. So the very first question you have to ask is about the work itself. It's simple. Does my work depend on your work? Does your work depend on mine? The answer to that question, that level of connection or interdependence, changes literally everything. And you can see here, there are basically three ways that work can flow. The simplest is pooled. Just think of a bunch of cashiers at a bank. They're on the same team, but they're mostly working by themselves. Then you have sequential, which is like an assembly line. I have to finish my part before you can even start yours. But the most complex, and where most knowledge work happens, is reciprocal. This is like a surgery team, where everyone's work is constantly flowing back and forth. Knowing which one of these you're dealing with is absolutely critical. The million-dollar question. I'm building a team, so how many people should I put on it? Is 5 the sweet spot? Is 10 way too many? What's the deal? Well, the research on this is really, really clear. Keep your teams lean. Smaller is almost always better. Why? It's simple, really. With fewer people, you have way less of that process loss we talked about, less time wasted just trying to get on the same page. Plus, when you're in a smaller group, you feel more accountable, more motivated. The key is this. The team has to be just big enough to get the work done, but not a single person larger. Now, team size is super important, but it's not the most important thing. Not even close. The single biggest decision you make when designing a team is who you put on it. And it's not just about their technical skills, it's all about their behaviors. And those key behaviors are right here in what's called the 5 C's. See, it's not enough to be brilliant at your job. You also have to be great at cooperating and coordinating with other people. You got to be a clear communicator. And this is huge. You need to have the skills for comforting, supporting your teammates when things get tough, and for conflict handling. Because guess what? Conflict is going to happen. A team full of people who nail these 5 things, well, they're pretty much unstoppable. Okay, so we've designed our dream team. The foundation is set. Now we're moving into that second part of the model, team processes. This is all about what happens after the team gets going, the day-to-day human element that makes it all work. So every team pretty much goes through a natural life cycle. It kicks off with forming, where everybody's being polite and just trying to figure things out. But right after that comes storming. And this is where conflict starts to bubble up about roles and ideas. Now here's the most important part. Storming is not a sign that your team is failing. It's a totally normal, necessary stage. You have to work through that conflict to get to norming, where you start to gel, and then finally, performing, where the real magic happens. But during that whole process, you can hit some serious roadblocks. And one of the most common ones is this thing right here, social loafing. We've all seen it. It's that person in the group project who you just know isn't pulling their weight because they think they can hide in the crowd. It is an absolute team killer. So how do you fight it? Well, the cool thing is the causes point directly to the solutions. If it's happening because individual work is hidden, then you need to make it visible, measure it. If the work is just plain boring, well, you've got to make it more engaging. And another great trick is to give people specialized tasks. That way they feel a real sense of ownership. These are direct antidotes to social loafing. Okay, so let's take all these ideas and talk about how they apply to the way so many of us work right now. How does this blueprint hold up when your team isn't even in the same city, let alone the same room? You've got to check this out. This is a fantastic example. Automatic, they're the company behind WordPress.com, is 100% remote. They are masters of this stuff. And yet, what do? They fly everyone in to get together in person multiple times a year. That tells you everything you need to know about how vital that human connection is for a team, even in a totally virtual world. So, what does it really take to make a remote team successful? Well, first off, those 5 C's we talked about, they become even more important. You absolutely need people who are naturally good at communicating and coordinating. Second, you can't just rely on email. You need a whole toolkit of communication channels for different things. And finally, the work itself has to be really well structured, so everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing without someone looking over their shoulder. All right, let's bring this all home. At the end of the day, a huge reason to have a team in the first place is to make better, smarter decisions than any one person could alone. So let's look at the common traps the teams fall into and, more importantly, how to avoid them. These right here are the classic enemies of good decisions. You've got production blocking. That's when only one person can talk at a time, so ideas get stuck. Then there's evaluation apprehension. That's that fear of looking stupid, so you keep your best, craziest ideas to yourself. And of course, there's peer pressure to just go along with the group, and overconfidence, where the team thinks it can do no wrong. So the takeaway is this. You can't just hope for good decisions. You have to intentionally design for them. You keep the team small. You build team rules that actually encourage healthy debate. You create what's called psychological safety so people aren't afraid to speak up. And you use creative structures, like brainwriting, where everyone writes down their ideas silently before anyone shares. This stops the loudest person from dominating the conversation. And that's really the final thought here. Every single team you're on is operating based on some kind of blueprint. The only question is, was it created by accident or was it created by design? So, when you think about everything we've covered, from team size and the 5 C's to avoiding social loafing, what's the one thing, the one small change that you can make tomorrow to improve your team's blueprint?